Hey TRUMC, it's Jonathan Tompkins here, and just wanting to give you an update as to where we are in kind of our slow opening or slow reopening, re-entry back into church life. Just to review, we have been in, phase one since March. We have obviously not been meeting in person for anything. And our bishop and the South Carolina United Methodist Conference have said that beginning June 14th, churches can begin to meet again in person, but they've left it up to each church to decide what that's going to look like. And so our church council and church leadership have been meeting on this. And we have decided that for us, we want to start small and then slowly, turn up the dimmer switch, like we've been saying. It's not like flipping on a light switch, it's turning up a dimmer switch slowly. And so we determined that we wanted to start small and then work our way to larger group gatherings. And there are two factors that we wanted to explore, examine in determining when we start to turn up that dimmer switch a little bit more. One is we wanted to kind of wait for a little bit and see some of the other churches in our area have reopened in various shapes and forms. And we wanted to kind of see how that would go for them. I have heard of one church in our area that opened. It was a very small church, and they had to close again because even though they were practicing all the safety precautions, one or two folks tested positive for the virus and they had to shut back down again. And so we just wanted to kind of see a little bit how that would work for some other area churches. So that was one factor. And then another factor is we wanted to look at Greenville County as a whole, and we really wanted to see some of the rates of infection of the virus begin to go down. And just this past week, I don't know if you saw it in the paper, but Greenville County has been determined a new hotspot, and the viruses seem to keep going up, or if not going up, then they're not going down for right now. So those are the two factors that our leadership has been looking at. And so, we United Methodists, you've heard me say this before, we're known as the people of the via media. That's Latin for middle way. And I think here again, we find ourselves walking the middle way between being overly cautious and not cautious enough. And so we're really trying to find where TRUMC can kind of fit in the middle of both of those. So looking at the transition from phase one into phase two. So we've determined that phase two, like I said, will begin small, and we want to have our small groups to start meeting in large spaces for small amounts of time. And that goes from some of the scientific research that I've been reading about is showing that large groups meeting for long amounts of time, of course, increases your exposure over the course of time. And so we want to be smaller with a smaller amount of time in larger spaces so that there's more air and ventilation and things like that. And I know that, I've seen people out there on social media, posing questions like, well, with the grocery stores have always stayed open and now, other things are opening back up. Why can I shop at Walmart, but I can't come to worship in the sanctuary at our church? And again, I think that that boils down to how long are you in Walmart versus how long are you in the sanctuary? And who are you around at Walmart, the number of people, as opposed to the number of people that you're around in the sanctuary. So it's all about that exposure plus time and the space that you're in. All of that is a factor. And so, that's why, for example, I am not in Florence, South Carolina at annual conference right now. Annual conference is every year. Over 1,000 United Methodists get together to conduct the business of the church, and they canceled annual conference because they don't want that amount of people in that space for that amount of time. It's why my children are not able to go to Asbury Hills camp this year. It's why our youth from church are not able to go to Salkehatchie summer service this year. It's all about the exposure over time and the size of your group. And so that's why, like I said, in phase 2 now, we're starting small. And so hopefully you have, if you are or have been in part of our small groups, that means our growth groups or our Sunday school classes, Stephen Ministry, various other smaller groups, hopefully you have received a survey, and we are just asking you your thoughts on small groups. Would you get back together if we followed safety precautions, if we met in large spaces, as a small group for small amounts of time? And we are right now compiling the results from that. I think well over 100 of you took that survey, and we just want to kind of figure out where you are. And I know that some of you will probably be raring to go and raring to meet, and we want to make allowances for that. Some of you will not be wanting to meet at all, and we want to make allowances for that. Some of you will be in the middle of all of that, and we're trying our best to make allowances for all that. So that's why I'm here in the parlor. This is one of the areas where we're thinking of having a small group meet when we begin meeting again. And then something else that we have planned for phase 2 are some outdoor gatherings. This would be in addition to our online worship services. So online services will continue each Sunday. But this would be something to complement those. So for example, our first is going to be a parking lot communion service, and that's going to be on June 28th. We're going to offer that 2 different times that morning, one at 9 a.m. and one at 11 a.m. And of course, the online service is at 10 a.m. So either come before or come after. And we're going to gather here in our side parking lot, and we're going to park, and it's going to be almost like a drive-in. We're just going to ask you to pop your trunk and sit in your car or put a seat out by your car. We of course will be spaced every other space apart. And I'll be here, Christine will be here, a musician will be here, and we'll have a song. We'll do a communion liturgy. We're going to ask that each of you bring your own bread and juice. And then we can partake of communion together, even if we're physically distanced. And then we're going to be looking at some other outdoor opportunities like that during phase 2 as well. Just opportunities for us to get together so we can see each other. I think that's from talking to people, I think that's a lot of what we miss most, is just seeing each other and being able to fellowship together. And then when it is time for phase 3, that will be resuming our indoor worship here in the sanctuary on a Sunday morning. That will be phase 3. When it's time for that, we are, of course, going to have to take some precautions, and it's going to be looking a little different than what you're probably used to on a Sunday morning. So again, our conference has guidelines about what indoor worship will look like. I was just on a Zoom call yesterday with some other United Methodist pastors from around our state, and I took a lot of notes. These are all about what guidelines, precautions they're wanting to take when it comes time to come back to worship in the sanctuary. And I've got other pages of notes from other Zoom calls that I've taken as well. And so when it is time to come back for phase 3, just be prepared that worship services are going to look different and sound different. They're going to be shorter. There's going to be not much, responsive readings, anything like that. There won't be probably any congregational singing. We'll have like a singer or two. Things are just going to be shorter. Again, we want to shorten the amount of time for things. And we still, of course, will have an online component. Even after we get back together again in the sanctuary, our online component is going to be important, because we know that there will be some people that still won't feel comfortable coming back into worship. And so we want to make sure that we have a great online experience. We are still working on improving the quality of video and audio. Again, just please be patient when it comes to that. And again, I do want to ask that if you have any questions or concerns, please just have a conversation with me. For the last 3 months, for me, preaching has always been a conversation, and I've always enjoyed, when I preach, I enjoy looking out at y'all and seeing your expressions, then talking to you after the service. Haven't had that since March, and so I felt like this has been such a one-way conversation for me. I'm screaming out into the ether. Is anybody listening? And would really just love to hear from you. If you have any questions about this or concerns, just give me the courtesy of being able to have a face-to-face conversation or a Zoom-to-Zoom conversation or a phone conversation with you. Would really be happy to speak with you more about this. And then just one last thing, just a personal ask from me and just on behalf of your pastors, Pastor Christine and myself, please continue to pray for us and to be patient with us. We are really trying to pastor you through this pandemic, and at the same time, we both have children, and our children are at home all summer. All of my children's summer activities have been canceled, and so still trying to work out how we're trying to work from home and trying to work from here and trying to pastor and do all this stuff. So please just continue to pray for us, and we appreciate the prayers that have already been lifted for us. We appreciate your patience, and moreover, we appreciate that the work of the church has not stopped. We have continued to worship and pray and study and serve and give and share as TRUMC, the Church on the Trail, trailing Christ, walking with Christ, serving God, and changing lives. Thank you so much for continuing this good work. Be well, my friends.